Welcome to the first ever Hudson Valley 360 Gridiron Blends show. We're going to be discussing the upcoming football season. Tim, why don't you tell me a couple things that we should really be looking out for this season?
Well, first and foremost, can Hudson return to the level it was a year ago? 2016, the Blue Hawks, of course, not only won a Rhineford Division title, they went undefeated through their first 9 games, got all the way to the Section 2 Class B championship game where they lost to Glens Falls, which went on to win the state title. But Hudson suffered a lot of graduated players. A lot of players graduated, their eligibility is expired, so can they return to that level with the newcomers they have coming up from a very good JV team, and also from the players that returned from that team that went to the Section 2 championship game last season? That's a big question. That's number one. We also have some new coaches coming on board. Mike Bowman, who is a legendary figure as far as I'm concerned at Taconic Hills, he has retired and has been replaced, if you want to call it replaced, because that's big shoes to fill. Mark Anderson, who coached under
coach.
Yeah, absolutely. For 3 years, I believe, he has coached under Coach Bowman, and he coached I believe he started the modified program in 2006 at Taconic Hills, coached the JV level for a while, and then left and went to Pine Plains before rejoining Coach Bowman at Taconic Hills 3 years ago. He takes that role, left vacant by Coach Bowman's retirement. And also at Coxsackie Athens, very interesting story. We have the youngest head coach, not only in Section 2, but from what we understand, one of the youngest head coaches in all of New York State, in Patty Bailey.
24 years old. First head coaching job.
Yes, and he's no stranger to coaching though.
No.
He played at Niskayuna, Patty Bailey. Then he volunteered coaching-wise at not only Niskayuna but at Mahonison as well. Learned the ropes under Scott Sabrin last year as the defensive backs and wide receivers coach, and now he was given the opportunity to take over a program with the departure of J.P. Holzlander, who had been coaching the last few years, and very successful reign for J.P. at Coxsackie Athens before he took a teaching job in the Guilderland School District. So some interesting stories there as far as the new coaches and can Hudson resume and return to the lofty status that it achieved last year.
Obviously, the big story in Week 1 is the Hudson-Glens Falls rematch. How do you see that shaking out?
That, it's funny because Hudson has been chomping at the bit to get back at Glens Falls after, well, the game that they played against the Indians last year. Glens Falls was a juggernaut last year. They were not going to be stopped. They suffered a lot of defections as far as graduated players as well. The Indians do, though, return 2 of the finest players you'll see in Section 2 this year in quarterback Joe Gerard III and running back Aaron Sampson. Both were first-team All-State selections last year. Gerard threw for nearly 1,700 yards, 24 touchdowns. Aaron Sampson ran for 1,300 yards and I believe 25 touchdowns he ran for, if I'm not mistaken. Had 165 yards in the state championship game against a very tough Shenango Forks defense. So those 2 are very, very good building blocks. They do have to replace their offensive and defensive lines, and they have to find another weapon for Gerard to throw to. Andy Murphy, who was the co-state player of the year in Class B, graduated as well, had a big game in the championship game at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse against Shenango Forks, but he will be missed. But as I mentioned, they are very, very capable of getting back to that level last year. Anytime you have a Joe Gerard on your team,
if you're looking for a game to go to Friday night, that's probably the game to go to. You're going to see Gerard, who's at least a D1 caliber athlete, basketball and football. You're not going to see much more of him after, he's what, sophomore this year?
He's junior this year, sophomore last year.
Right, so you only have 2 more years to see him. Let's check out some of the other games that we have going on this weekend. 4 games Friday night, 2 games Saturday. Chatham at Holy Trinity.
That's interesting. I really feel right at the Chatham practice when they first started back in mid-August, and they're impressive. They have some big kids. They're well coached, a great coaching staff. Rich Sitzer has a very good coaching staff working with him, including 2 former head coaches, Mark Dwyer and Sean Caldwell, and that goes a long way. There's a lot of continuity there. These coaches get along, and they have some real good talent to work with. Caleb Taylor is going to be maybe the best quarterback in our area in terms of the ability to throw, He's tall. He has some good receivers to throw to, and Mike Tran and Brandon Martino. A good running back coming back from an ACL injury suffered during basketball season, and Hayden Stockton. He's a tough kid. They have a good, solid line in front of them. Tom Cozzolino returns, Aiden Jackson, and some good youngsters coming up from their undefeated JV team from a year ago. So Chatham is going to be a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Class C is interesting this year as well, in that there are 14 teams now in Class C. 3 teams drop down to Class D, so you have, instead of the 3-division setup this year, you have the 2-division setup. You have the North Division in Class C in the South. Chatham is the team in the South who I feel might be the team to watch in that division. They're going to be very, very good, I believe.
Now, also down there, we have Town Kills at Waterford Elite, which is a tough game for Town Kills to open up with.
Especially on the road.
Right.
Anytime you play Waterford Elite, any time, any year, they're going to be good. They have a great football background, but they won the division, the South Division, last year, and with an undefeated record. Then they lost in the first round of the playoffs. But I think there's some question there how good Waterford Elite's going to be this year. I'm sure they'll be good, but they lost some players at graduation. They also lost some players that just decided not to come out for football this year. So they're gonna. It's a question mark as far as how good they're going to be. But Town Kills is going to be interesting. Like I said, with a brand new coach, you've got some good players coming back. They've lost, as everybody has, some players at graduation, but they're going to be interesting. They got a quarterback by the name of Brandon Pruser, who's been there, I think, they started for 3 years. Right. But interesting to see how Coach Anderson handles that. They run the wing tee for the longest time under Coach Bowman.
Right. We'll
see if he changes it up a little bit. He says that they're going to run some elements of that. He's done some spread in the past, but they're going to run elements of several different offenses, but they're going to look different on the field, but still have the same elements that they've used in the past. So we'll see how that shakes out. But Town Kills is going to be an interesting team, too, because they do have some talent out there.
They do. And Coxsackie Athens, new head coach, he gets to start his career against Tamarack Friday night.
Yeah, absolutely. Tamarack's another team hit hard by graduation. They lost a quarterback, they lost a 240-pound fullback, they lost a bevy of solid receivers. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Patty Bailey, good man. 24 years old, and this guy
loves football.
Loves to talk football. I had a chance to talk to him, do a story on him here for the paper, and just a great guy to talk to. And you got to be pulling for a guy like that because he's young, but he's not coming in intimidated.
Right.
But we've talked about here in the office, some of the coaches that he will be up against have been alive longer, or have been coaching longer than he's been alive, which is interesting.
Ravina's coach, he's been there since 84, I believe.
Sure, and Patty was born, in the 90s. So. But he's got some talent there, too. I mean, Justice Middaugh is a tremendous athlete, tremendous wrestler. He's going to play halfback for him. The quarterback Mike Constantino, he played last year and alternated with Tyler Westervelt. They have some good linemen. Mark Martinez is a big kid. He's been on the varsity now for 3 years. So Coxsackie Athens, Tamarack, I would not be surprised to see Patty come away with a victory in his first varsity game as head coach.
Hopefully. And Saturday we have 2 games. We have Voorheesville is going to Carroll Durham.
Carroll Durham had a tough time last year. They were 0-9. They had talent. They had some talent. But they lost their leading rusher, Donovan Minot, who was one of the top rushers around, a very, very good football player. But he has graduated, and now it remains to be seen. They had a tough time even with him last year scoring. They were shut out 4 times in 9 games. So see what Coach George Kudus can come up with over in Carroll.
Hopefully they can get a win this year. We also have the last game of the weekend will be Ichabod Crane at Hudson Falls.
Another game that's very interesting. I mean, Ichabod, another team that won just 1 game last year, and that was against Carroll Durham. And Hudson Falls, a perennial postseason team in Class B, had a tough year under Bill Strong last year. They were 3-6. Which you don't see very often from Hudson Falls. They have some kids back, though, from that team. They've got a year experience under their belt. But I'm intrigued by the Ichabod Crane team. Now, I'm not sitting here saying they're going to go from 1-9 to like 8-2 or 7-2 or something like that. But I think they are on the upswing. Mike Cahill, former Gilderland coach, assistant coach, has come down, and this is his 2nd year at the helm. I think he's got a good program coming together here. Peyton Mavridis was hurt, so they're going to alternate quarterbacks, I believe. You've got Austin Walsh coming in. You've got Tyler James. And Hayden Brockman, I should say, is going to be the tight end. He's a big kid, grew a lot. They have some good running backs. You've got Toby Zuko. You've got Marcus George. I mean, I'm just name dropping here, but you do have talent. That's my point. They've done some work in the off season and in the weight room, and I think Ichabod Crane. It might not show right away record wise, but I believe Ichabod Crane is upcoming. They're going to be all right.
They're going to be good. All right, so thank you for tuning in to the first Gridiron Glance show here. We will be back next Friday.